Andrew hit us up with his radical college football opinion. He said the BCS, while having its own drawbacks, was a much better system than the College Football Playoff Committee. Fact, fact, fact. And Andrew, keep it up, Colin. Excuse me, never mind immunity. Andrew said exactly how he should have phrased it. He said the BCS, despite having its drawbacks, was still better than the current system we have. So he didn't say it was perfect. Because normally when you try and make this argument of I prefer BCS over what we have today, people will go back and say, oh man, what about Auburn in 04 though? Like, what about this team that got screwed, or this anecdotal example of that team that got left out? It's not without drawbacks. It wasn't a perfect system. But man, if you're 14 years old right now, and you really didn't live in that era, and you only know the playoff era, you guys have lived in a world where meaningless bowl game has just been a phrase like the sky is blue. It's always existed. But it didn't always exist, little kiddo. It didn't always exist that way. There was a time where even if you were just a 7-win team and you barely made it into the Gator Bowl, that was a huge celebratory point. No one opt-outs weren't a thing. Okay, and this is not in the 1930s. This is in color. It's not just in black and white. This is a pretty recent thing. As recently as like 10 and 11 and 12, there were no opt-outs. And yeah, you had a BCS championship game, and there was a lot of attention paid to it, and rightfully so. But also, you had other games in the BCS rotation. You didn't have a committee of people whose college football credentials were in some cases questionable at best. If you got screwed, it was because of a computer. And I get screwed by computers all the time, man. The model is doing terribly in betting bowl games right now. So I know what it's like to get screwed by a computer. Yeah, it happened, but it was so much more fun. I'm not romanticizing this. Some people are going to come back at me and say, oh, you're just romanticizing the past. Oh, it was much better now than it was then. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not saying it's bad now. I'm just saying it was better then. And I think that sentiment along these lines has been as popularized in the last 2 years as it ever has been. Like if you would have said in 2015, give me the BCS over what we've inherited, you would have gotten shouted down. Now that people have gotten 10 years worth of the playoff under their belt and what the playoff has meant for the greater good of the sport, all of a sudden it's not so radical anymore to say, you know what, while it was a little flawed, I'd much prefer the BCS. I've always felt that way. I have just become very, very encouraged with how many people have come over to our side of the fence on this.